Hello, America. We want to talk to you about, honestly, about totalitarianism and authoritarianism. I know the left keeps saying, Nazis are here, Nazis are here. Well, yes, they are. And it's not just here. It's in England. It's in South Korea, as we will show you tonight. It's happening all over the Western world. This is not about Donald Trump. This is about a global takeover of the West. And there's a few enemies. I put them on my chalkboard years ago. One of the most honest guys as an international journalist that actually cares about telling the truth, no matter where the rats are to be found, is my guest for this first segment on digital ID. The truth led him to South Africa when he was only 18 years old, began exposing what happened there long before anybody else. He is now the CEO of Liberty Sentinel Media. His name is Alex Newman. He is a friend of the show, and I am a big fan of his. Alex, welcome. I want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening with digital ID all around the world. You've been warning about this since, 2010, 2011? And here we are.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Glenn. And the first article I did, I went back and looked, 2010 in the New American Magazine, I warned about a similar proposal in the United States. They wanted to bring in a national biometric ID that would be required to work. And here's the kicker. It was actually paired with amnesty for illegal immigrants. So this new scheme that they're working on in the United Kingdom, they're marketing it as a method of reining in illegal immigration, but it really has nothing to do with illegal immigration. It's an effort to force everybody into this system. And they say, first it'll be to work, next it'll be to shop, it'll be for your health care, it'll be for your government benefits. And it's coming at us like a freight train. A few years after they first proposed it in 2010, Obama started pushing an idea that we needed a digital ID to go on the internet so that we couldn't be anonymous anymore online. We need to be clear. This is a tool for totalitarianism. And then you listen to Klaus Schwab's recent comments on the Fourth Industrial Revolution just a few years ago, where he said, ultimately, we want a fusion of our biological and our digital identities. Mm-hmm. This stuff is crazy. And if Americans and if people around the world don't stand up, we're going to lose our freedom, Glenn.
He is one of the most evil guys, and now he's not around. I mean, thank God he's gone, but it's still all there. It's still going. The Great Reset is still a plan with the globe. The digital ID now is being pushed in England, and it does encompass everything. Switzerland has just done it. I believe Australia has done it. And it started earlier in India, if I'm not mistaken. They were the first to go really deep into this, and it was a disaster. Can you tell me what happened when they launched that?
Yeah, that was fascinating. I was covering that as well, Glenn. And they insisted that every last person in India have one of these things. It had all their biometric data, and they basically made it impossible to live without it. I was just in India a few months ago on a mission trip, and I was told that every single person in the entire country must have a smartphone to be able to interact with society. They used it for vaccine passports. Now they use it for banking. They use it to get any kind of relationship with government or even companies. I went into a store and tried to buy a dress for my wife. I couldn't even buy that without a digital app, something on a smartphone, which of course I didn't have because I don't have a smartphone. So this became ubiquitous. And what happened in India, the total incompetence rolling it out, they had people who were not able to access food and other essentials of life. It ended up becoming a giant dumpster fire. Of course, Bill Gates was haunting this in the shadows. Mm-hmm. And I talked about this on your show last year, Glenn. The digital ID is one component of the digital public infrastructure that Bill Gates and the United Nations have already publicly announced they're working on. It will be melded with the central bank digital currency and all of the other digital architecture they're building to create essentially a digital gulag for humanity.
What kind of timeline are we looking at now? The United States, Donald Trump says we're not going to do a lot of these things, but I don't know if he even gets how dangerous this is and where it is. I mean, they're putting up some fights and some speed bumps on it, but I haven't seen a movement. We need legislation passed. These things will not happen here. Because it's not about country to country. It is about a global surveillance system of the West, is it not?
It absolutely is, Glenn. I couldn't agree
So
with you more. And you're right. I don't think Donald Trump is going to bring in a digital ID, but we are
I don't
seeing
either.
now stepped up enforcement of something called the Real ID, which is really the federal government's first
Hmm.
significant attempt to build a national identification system. And it's been on the books going all the way back to in the aftermath of September 11th. But a lot of states said we're not going to participate. They refused to issue Real IDs. Now they're requiring it to be able to get on airplanes and do a number of other things.
Oh yeah.
So this is the groundwork for it. And you're right. We need legislation that spells out in clear language this is not going to happen in America. The federal government doesn't have that authority. We're not doing it.
I have 80 seconds. Tell Americans what it's like if they don't stand up against this right now. What's coming?
It will end up in total control of every facet of your life. They're already bringing in the social credit score that they pioneered in China. They're pairing it with the digital currencies, and they want to make it so that they will track your carbon footprint. They will track your attitudes and your opinions online. They will track everything that you buy to determine whether you're making appropriate choices. They will track where you're tithing, what church you're tithing at, what organizations and ministries you're giving to. It will create a dossier, a comprehensive dossier on every American, which will, of course, be processed through artificial intelligence. And if we don't stop it, it will culminate in exactly what Klaus describes in his book on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, a fusion of our biological and our digital identities that will be impossible to escape from. So I urge Americans in the strongest possible terms, take this threat seriously. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's coming down the pike, and we must say no.
Yeah, when you say things like it's not coming tomorrow, to people my age, that's like, oh, okay, so we have time. No, you mean it's not literally coming tomorrow, but
Right.
it's already here in huge Western nations, and it will come, either by disguise under Donald Trump without them really understanding the eggs that are being laid, or it comes right after they leave office. But it is very dangerous. Thank you so much, Alex. We'll talk again. Talk on the radio. God bless.
Thank you, Glenn.
Back in just a minute. So we're in a moment where lies spread really quickly, and the truth feels costly. For Linda, the cost of her silence would have meant the end of her baby's life, and there's nothing worse than that. She knew abortion was wrong, but fear consumed her. I'm reading her story, her led her to dark places. She said, I didn't know where to turn. Then God led me to a preborn network clinic where I was met with prayer and compassion and the truth that pierced through my fear. She chose life for her baby. Preborn shines truth into the heart of the darkness, into the heart of moms who are deciding between life and death, and they feel trapped. Just $28 provides that truth that will pierce that heart. $28 through a free ultrasound. This is your chance to make a real difference and have your difference echo through the eternities. Just hit pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 keyword baby. Or you can donate securely online at preborn.com/Glenn. Preborn.com/Glenn. Well, the world is truly at an inflection point, and freedom or total control is the choice. The ability to speak your mind and express your opinions, or go to jail for flying your own flag, or, go to jail for posting a meme. The UK is clearly lost. Digital ID is just the most recent topping on a cake that has been baking for quite some time. But the Brits are not alone. Totalitarian governments are popping up all over the Western world, and they are making frightening moves at a breakneck speed. Some are now even assaulting the church and arresting pastors. I've been telling you for the last couple of weeks what's happening in South Korea on the radio, and it is truly frightening. When Reverend Soon of the Segero church in Busan began speaking about policies that he saw as anti-biblical, the government then swooped in and arrested him. His son, Chance Soon, bravely joins me now. Chance, welcome to the program. How are you, sir?
Oh, great. It's 3:40 a.m. in the morning, and thank you so much for giving me a platform to be able to be faithful to my father, Segero Church, and Korea as well. Thank you.
So you are more than welcome. Can you set the stage for us and start? Let's start with what happened to President Yoon, because I don't think most Americans even know the story. or know it enough to be able to
Yeah,
navigate.
so President Yoon declared martial law last year, December 3rd, as the Democratic Party, the Liberal, was controlled by basically the whole country was controlled by the Congress in Korea, Democratic Party, and they impeached 30 plus prosecutors that were investigating their political leaders and also the chairman of the Korean Communication Committee, and the list goes on. So for the last 70 years in Korea, there are only around 56 people that got impeached. However, 30 happened in the last year and a half. You can imagine how much of a totalitarianism that there was. And he declared martial law, and because they were cutting all the budgets that the president could use and things like that, and then he was impeached earlier this year as well,
So,
and right now it's the Democratic Party that's taken over the government.
so he declared martial law because they were firing everybody, making it impossible for him to do anything. And if I'm not mistaken, didn't he also say that China was deeply involved in, that they had agents basically working in their government? It was a deep state, but this one was being run mainly by China, correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's also a lot of the speculations and also what the President Yoon also mentioned as well.
Okay. So he is out, and your father had been speaking out about corruption and been speaking out about what was going on, and also what really caused a lot of his problems, I think, was that he was speaking out against transgenderism, and they were, doing the same things that are happening here in America. And
Yes,
he would
yeah.
speak out not only on the pulpit, but also he would lead people out on the streets. Can you tell me
Mhm.
what your father was doing, what he was saying and thinking?
Yeah, so I think we could go back to COVID era,
Okay.
where two administration before under the President Moon, and which also was a Democratic Party, and during COVID time, they're trying to control the church. So even though there were tens of millions of people taking metro, buses, subways every single day in the morning and also afternoon when they go home, they were the government only allowed 5 people or 20 worshipers in a church that could have, for Segero church's example, up to 6,000 people, and including the media team. Excluding the media team, there was basically nobody that could go to the public,
Sure.
offline service.
Hmm.
So that was the first strike, I believe. And the second strike was last year, 1027. So right before the 1027, the Supreme Court in Korea, they 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 said they set a time where they were allowing the health benefit for the transgender and also gay couple, and this has flooded in a lot of transgenderism in countries like Taiwan, and we didn't want that. And my father started a movement, and on October 27th last year, there was 1 million people offline in Seoul that were worshiping and also protesting against the anti-discrimination law. That's a comprehensive. And in Korea, there are already over 20 plus individual anti-discrimination law. And that's why a lot of conservative and also Christians call that bill the homosexuality law. And there are also more than 1 million people that were praying and worshiping together on online on YouTube. And that's all. I believe that's a second strike. And so he was the most vocal leaders among Korean churches, and they probably hated that.
So how much since Yoon was deposed, how has the culture and the political climate shifted in this last year? How dramatic is it?
So it's only been 100 days, just a little more than
Okay.
100 days after President Lee took over, um, the government. However, it's been just basically a tyranny. So, for example, judiciary branch for the Supreme Court in Korea, there are only 14 justices right now. However, they're trying to add 20 or 30 more,
Oh,
and not
geez.
even appointed by the president. They are saying that the judges should be voted by people, which is basically nonsense when you consider the judiciary branch. You're not gonna do, you have to be fair according to the law, not make decisions you know, by like how much of a people like what they want and results and things like that. And that's basically what's happening, not only judiciary, but Congress, and they're trying to get rid of the prosecutor's office as well and replace it with whatever they want. And also, yeah, it's just going crazy, and
It,
people are getting awakened.
so when Yoon was impeached and left,
Mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, that's because he declared martial law. We just talked
Mhm.
about that, and the country went crazy. That within hours they had impeached him because he had declared martial law. I
Mhm.
watched and I thought that was a mistake, but I wasn't following South Korea that closely, so I didn't really have anything really, I don't have a dog in the hunt here. But I thought that was a mistake that it would gave them everything they wanted. However, now the replacements are going further and there's no pushback on that at all.
So, my dad was so there was a movement called Save Korea, which was led by my father. So right after the December 3rd, starting in, if I remember correctly, late December, my dad conducted this a rally in all over South Korea, gathering hundreds of thousands of people protesting against the Democratic Party and how they are trying to impeach everyone that they don't like, that were having opposing values, basically silencing uh, everyone or everything that had opposing opinions to what they had. And yeah,
How
so
is the average person being affected? I mean, is this going down the chain, or is it still pretty high up with leaders and people like your father, church leaders?
yeah, so what I wanted to add is that I don't want to attack anyone or any church or anything, but they're not a vocal leader like my dad was. So I think that's why they went after and targeted my father, so that if you hit the person that has been the most influential and vocal, and if it succeeds, no one else is gonna step up. I mean, I've been praying really hard, and yeah, and praying that other leaders among Korean churches or any leader in any aspect to step up. But people are being awakened right now, but there hasn't been much of a actions ever
Mhm.
since the arrest of my father. But
Do
there are thousands of people praying for my father every single day. However, not like a rally that's like Save Korea.
do you believe people will wake up in South Korea? I mean, we have, not to the degree of your father, but the Trump family has been just decimated by the same kind of tactics. And we wonder all the time: is there enough people that are going to wake up to this? Because most people are buying all of the propaganda here in America that no, it's the right wing that is the real trouble. It's the right wing that is going to bring fascism in. Meanwhile, fascism is knocking at our door, and it's
Mhm.
already across the threshold in South Korea. Are people waking up, or are they still dead asleep?
Um, we are definitely waking up right now, and Koreans are very passionate. So once it gets going, the fire will spread very quickly, and from a platform like this and how President Trump also mentioned about the Purge and Revolution, although it wasn't very specific, people are having thoughts. What's going on in Korea? Like just average, ordinary people are also questioning the government right now. And I believe this will, and I'm thankful that my father is being in sort of way used by God to be able to awaken Korean churches and Korean people. And I believe God has plans for all this, and He has already won the battle. So we just have to fight the fight.
Most Americans saw after Charlie Kirk died, these people,
Yes.
we thought, spontaneously, hold a candlelight vigil for Charlie Kirk. And we had no idea how South Korea knew about Charlie Kirk. I had one of the leaders of kind of your version of TPUSA in my office just 2 weeks ago telling me what she's going through, what they're going through, and the persecution. And she went home and she said, I fully expect to be arrested. So far, she hasn't been. But we're dealing in a completely different world. We're looking at the 1930s of Europe in many ways. Tell me, Charlie was over in South Korea right before he died, and he took a picture with your dad. Were you there, and can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I was actually there. Yeah, so so my dad knew of Charlie because he not only among the American youth, he was also known in among the Korean conservatives in Korea, and how impactful and influential he was through the Turning Point USA and also the debate videos. And my dad wanted to meet him, and we went to the event to meet up with Charlie. And it wasn't a very long time. However, my dad shared his situation, and Charlie promised that he will make sure if my dad gets arrested, to that he will make sure the Secretary of State will know about what's going on in Korea, and he kept his promise.
Tell me about the last sermon your dad did.
Yeah, so he said, he said that if he gets arrested, first of all, this will mean that this country is going to a very wrongful direction. Because just for speaking out of the biblical truth on the pulpit and opposing the opposing the transgenderism on the pulpit, which is, of course, the biblical truth. Speaking of the the truth, and arresting him would be saying basically the government is going to a wrong direction, and how this will be basically a tyranny, totalitarianism, and that if he gets arrested, he told the whole church to come out to the front and to worship and pray even harder, and to serve for the community and for the church, and set by example, to be first one to do that. And that encouraged a lot of people. And our Segero Church has been showing the solidarity. And I think it's also has touched a lot of Korean conservatives and also Christians as well.
So tell me about when they came to get your dad.
When he got arrested, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So when he got arrested, so he was basically summoned to the court, and he walked into the court in Busan, and that was the last time I saw him until just last week when I got to make a first visitation. And actually, our family thought he wouldn't get arrested because the constitutional rights, inalienable rights given by God, I believe, is freedom of speech, and that's also in the Constitution of Korea. and he was just expressing his freedom of speech, and he was speaking out about biblical truth. And the reason he got arrested is he. So after his sermon earlier this year, he had a conservative candidate for the superintendent in Busan, and he was just asking the candidates positions in terms of the transgenderism, because in Korea it's not as serious in America, how America is. However, they're making boys to wear skirts, girls to wear some weird stuff, and that was happening in Busan as well. And he was just simply asking him questions, and because he was using the sound system, he violated the law. And
Because he used the sound system, he violated the law?
yeah, that's the main charge, because you're not allowed to use the sound system right before the election period starts, because that's considered as the electoral campaign.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's a civil law in Korea.
And that's what put him in prison?
Yeah. And also, he's going through 20 other lawsuits for conducting offline service during COVID. And funny thing is that around one fourth of them have been sued by the liberal pastors. They thought that they didn't like they we shouldn't have the Segero Church shouldn't have conducted offline service or follow what the government told us to do, and we didn't listen, of course, because biblical truth and standing firm in faith is more important than listening to the big government.
I'm just thinking of the ramifications of losing South Korea as an ally. And everything that I'm reading, everything that I'm talking to you and others about in South Korea, that is actually a possibility, that you are kind of like the people of Hong Kong until, COVID. And then all of a sudden, all that resistance just disappeared. All of a sudden, they're just gone. And that was because America wasn't watching. We weren't paying attention. Are you afraid of that kind of situation?
Of course. And as Hemingway said, gradually but suddenly. It was just 5, 6 years ago when Hong Kong was the most prosperous countries in Asia. However, now they're gone. I went to Hong Kong 2 years ago, and I wasn't allowed to speak in the cab because there was a camera that was filming inside the cab. So I wasn't supposed to say anything about, the Xi Jinping or anything. And we were just in 200 days into this President Lee's regime, and we're not just driving really fast. We're not just driving fast into the socialism, communism, pro-China. We're just drifting. We're driving like 200 miles to that direction. And what the funny thing about Korea right now is that they're trying to frame America as the bad people. Even though President Lee promised that he's going to give $350 billion to the US in terms of the negotiations of the tariff, right now, President Lee and the media, the straight control media and the legacy media in Korea right now is happening the exact same thing. Like it's just the same how it was like until President Trump took over. However, they trying to frame Americans and America as the bad people, trying to take everything from us. But
Yeah.
Koreans shouldn't forget that it was President Lee who started that.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick break, and then I'm going to come back and describe what happened when the police came to take your father. I know you saw him for just a few minutes, and the amazing story of what happened to him in court, which just seems nuts. But we'll talk about that here in just a second. More in a minute. so many people are living with everyday pain. They think they're just stuck with it. It is what it is, and that's it. But it doesn't have to be that way. Let me tell you a little bit about Jenny from Texas. Jenny from Texas, her relief factor story is pretty amazing. She was out for a walk one day. Unfortunately, she was hit by a car, and nothing she tried worked for her lower back. And so when somebody came to her and said, "Hey, Jenny, you should try this. I just heard about this," she was like, "It's worth a try, worth a shot." Relief Factor worked for her. She said, "My pain decreased, my range of motion increased, and to say I'm grateful is an understatement." Thank you so much. I'm glad you tried it, and I'm glad it worked. Now, will you try it? Will you try it? You know what? I wasn't going to, but my wife made me. My wife is sitting right off camera. My wife made me, and she was like, "I'm not going to listen to you whine anymore unless you try everything." And I tried it, and I didn't think it would work, and she was right. So listen to my wife, because she's usually right. Give Relief Factor a try. Stop living with your aches and pains. Try their their 3-week quick start trial bag. It's only $19.95 in a few days, or weeks, 2 weeks to be specific, or 3. You'll see the difference that Relief Factor can make in your life. You don't have to be stuck with all the pain. Go to relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com, or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. 1-800-4-RELIEF. So the police come, and what do they charge your dad with? What is that moment like with them coming in to arrest your dad?
It was the election law that we just talked about. That
Okay.
for him to use the sound system and use the pulpit as the election campaign, platform.
Okay. So, but the Constitution of South Korea is pretty clear. And your father has been saying, this is biblical talk. This is not. I'm not taking money from any candidate. I'm not telling people who to vote for. I'm talking about the biblical principles. Correct?
Yes. Yes.
And that should have been enough for the judge. So now he was thrown into jail, and he's not being released. And they say they're not releasing him. One reason is because they're afraid he'll flee. But your whole family is there, right? And didn't you all say, "We'll stay and answer any questions"? I mean, we'll turn in the passport. We're not going anywhere.
Yep.
But he shouldn't be held in prison. Is that true?
Yep. So we basically, so after my dad got arrested more than 3 weeks ago, there was a habeas corpus review last Thursday, and we also submitted the sworn statement that the whole family, including the grandchildren, if needed, will be willing to 100% committed to attend the court hearings if needed, and that we will not leave the country without the court's permission. However, just leaving, where would you go? Leaving the family behind, the church
The
behind.
church.
There are there are more than 15,000 members registered at Segero Church, and there are around 5,000 worshipers attending every Sunday. And he's a senior pastor. He built that church from 15, 20 people to right now. It's one of the biggest churches in Korea, and also the biggest church in Seoul, in Busan. Where would he go? And during this hearing, the habeas corpus, the judge didn't make any objection regarding the risk of flight or risk of diminishing the evidence, which are the two conditions for arresting a suspect. However, they didn't really mention about that or made any objection. But however, he invoked references to Lee Wan-young, which is a very famous trader that's known as someone who sold the country to Japan when we were under the Japanese colonial era, and
So
that when we heard that, we are
he
so outraged.
he's taught in schools as the nation trader, right? And
Yes.
I don't know, is this Seobu District Court incident? What is
Yes.
that?
Yeah, so it's basically the Western District Court incident. There was violence happened when during the impeachment of President Yoon, there were a lot of young adults, youth. They found out about what the Democratic Party was doing. However, they got really mad, and they were really mad about the results and how they were making the judiciary branch was making the decisions based on what the Democrat Party wanted, and some of them got violent and broke into the Western District Court in Seoul. However, this of course has nothing to do with my father, and they were just trying to brand him as the extremist far right, invoking violence. However, my dad always has said we should fight with words and also the scripture, not the physical sword or physical violence. However, that's what they're doing, not focusing on the focal points. However, trying to brand him, they're trying their best, mainstream media and judicial branch, and also yeah, the Congress also trying really hard to brand any conservatives or anyone or any counterparts that have opposing values as extremist far right, and that's what they did with Charlie as well.
Tell me about the judge. Kim, is it Kyun?
Yeah, Kim Do-kyun.
Yeah. He lectured your dad. You just spoke about it here a second ago.
Yeah.
Called him a traitor. Is there any way to get another judge? Because he seems like he's already made up his mind on everything.
Yeah, the defense and attorneys are trying to find a way to bail him out. As this the next step that we are trying to take, and I believe he should be bailed. He should be allowed to be bailed, which also might not happen, to be honest. Oh, and I want to mention about another judge that actually approved the arrest warrant on the day of the arrest of my dad. This is actually different judge, and he was very controversial on the day of and the following days of my dad's arrest because 7 years ago, he let go of 12 people that was they violated, for sure. They violated the National Security Act. They were worshiping Kim Jong-un, and they were worshiping North Korea's regime. And he's the one that released him. And yet
Oh, wow.
he was arresting my father for just speaking truth on the pulpit. He wasn't invoking any violence, or he wasn't saying, "Oh, you got to worship Kim," or "North Korea is where we should be," things like that. And yeah, that's what a lot of the judges are doing right now. Different judge, same values, socialism, communism, pro-China.
We're seeing the same things here, and you see in Europe and in Britain. I mean, the West is absolutely under attack. So he's turned down your father's plea, and it seems like he has an axe to grind of some way or another. So what happens to your dad? What's next?
So the last time I was able to make a visitation was this Monday with pastors from the U.S., Pastor Rob McCoy and Pastor Stephen Martin, that I admire. And for himself, he looks a little slimmer. However, he said that he's on a mission trip, that he's been praying a lot more, and he's of course having a lot more free time compared to where he was out. And he said he's reading the Bible a lot more and reading books more. And he said he hopes and he prays that the Korean churches and Korean Christians conservative awaken by the arrest of himself, and also basically to show how this regime is doing in terms of the judicial system, and also to the conservative silencing the counterparts.
So, how can we help?
America.
Yeah.
Yeah, first, I ask for prayers, of course. That's the most important, and I think that's the most valuable help, um, not only from America, but from other churches and other Western countries as well. But because America, a lot of countries, including Korea, looks at America to set standard. And until the President Trump took over, the previous administration under Biden, President Biden, America was dismantling church and biblical
Hmm.
values
Hmm.
and personal freedom. And right now, it's going back to normal, I believe. And President Trump is getting support all over the world, and especially in America. And what we ask is to stand firm in the constitutional rights, to set the standard what is right and what's wrong. Because, as I mentioned, there are so many countries, including Korea, and ordinary people are looking up to America in a lot of ways. And you guys are ones that set the standard, and it will affect Korea. So,
Yeah.
the mainstream media and strict controlled media is silencing the opposing rallies or any truth that's being spoken. However, if President Trump and Americans keep praying for us and stand firm in faith and stand for a biblical truth, we'll get to know, the Koreans will know that something's going to a very wrong direction. And if we could get maybe if the Korean political leaders could get connected to the U.S. political leaders, I think that could also help a lot in terms of spreading news, what's actually going on within the government and things like that.
What is the specific ask for Americans? How
For
can we help?
Americans. Hmm. I think any program or funds could help as well because how you gave an example, the government right now is basically raiding and attacking all like they're tracing all the funds and the tax investigations towards any organization or anyone or that has the opposing what is it opposing speech.
Yeah.
So so if there is a program that could help out to spread the news in what's happening in Korea or funds, that there are a lot of Korean conservative movements, including the one you mentioned. So I think any financial help or yeah, just spreading the news
Mobilizing.
among Americans would help a lot.
When Charlie was killed, it woke a lot of people up here in America.
Yes. Hmm.
I hope the same thing happens with your father without the sad ending that we had with
Hmm.
Charlie Kirk. You saw him just this week earlier, didn't you? For how long they let you see him? 10 minutes.
Yep.
How is he?
Um, so yeah, he said he's doing well. So the width of the cell he's in, he said, is 80 centimeter, which is around 2.6 feet.
Oh my gosh.
However, when Pastor Rob McCoy, who was the first speaker at Charlie's memorial, he gently said that he's here to make a visitation and to speak for
Hmm.
Korea's freedom. He said that he's here to keep the promise with Charlie, that he promised Charlie. And when my dad heard the name Charlie, he was breaking down in tears because when he, as he shared, when he got the news from the attorney's note that Charlie, about Charlie's martyrdom, that it broke his heart. And I've never seen him cry like that. he's known for, being a former special forces soldier, and also his strength in like mentality and
Yeah.
spirituality. However, me seeing him cry like that, I think it showed how meaningful it was to meet Charlie and also share the same values, even though he was a lot younger.
Well, I have to tell you, we'll continue to follow this. We'll continue to tell your story, your dad's story, and South
Thank
Korea's story. We are in dire trouble in America. Imagine what life is like when we don't have access to the Pacific. China owns everything. And the countries that you always thought were stable and on our side, they're not anymore. They're not. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I wish
Thank you
you
so
and your
much for
family and
giving
your,
me a platform.
yeah, you bet. We wish the best for your dad. We'll be talking again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the seasons are shifting, the air is getting cooler, and the days are getting a little bit shorter. And while you're switching the wardrobe and everything else, put another blanket on the bed, something else is happening too, something you don't always see until it's too late and they're in the inside. Out there in the leaves and the mulch and the crawl spaces, the pests are making their move. They're coming in as well. The spiders, the silverfish, all of them, they all want the same thing, just a warm place to lay their head down on a pillow at night. Make sure that you make it clear, yeah, not on this pillow. You're not coming into the house. And the place to help you do that is Moxie Pest Control. They know exactly how this game plays out every time because they've been through it in house and this house and that house thousands of times. And, they're going to come into the house. They're going to show up and they're going to look and listen to you. Then they're going to come up with a plan. They'll strategize and they'll build a permanent really protection around you and your house from everything that shouldn't be there. It's not really about being anti-bug, although I am strongly anti-bug. It's about the line between what's out there and what belongs to you in your home. The seasons change, but your peace of mind does not have to. Right now, celebrate 25 years with Moxie. You can get your first pest control service for $28. Visit MoxieServices.com, promo code Beck. MoxieServices.com, promo code Beck. We have several things that we are up against. One of them is fear. Fear does not come from God. It's not real. Fear will lead to horrible things because we won't act. Other is apathy. We don't really care anymore because we don't think we can make a difference, or we just are so consumed in our own life. The things that are happening now are real. We are in a new dispensation, if you will. We're in a new era, and I think it began with the death of Charlie Kirk. Live every second. Know what you live for, what's worth living for, what's worth dying for, and then stay on your knees and beg God to save the Republic. Good night.